You've seen that book everywhere, right? The one with the purple cover, Rich Dad, Poor Dad? For decades, it's been a giant in personal finance, launching a whole empire and a new way of thinking about money. But the man behind it, Robert Kiyosaki, well, he's complicated. So the big question we're tackling is, who is this guy, really? A financial visionary who cracked the code, or an absolute master marketer who built a fortune selling an idea? Okay, let's get into it. Everything exploded from one single radical idea, an idea that challenged the core belief most of us have about our biggest investment. Kiyosaki asked a simple question that made everyone stop and think. What if your home, the place you live, isn't actually making you rich? Now, to get where he's coming from, you have to understand his definitions. And honestly, they're brutally simple. Forget all the complex accounting jargon. According to his Rich Dad, an asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. That's it. End of story. It's all about which way the cash is flowing. And this is where the big clash happens. See, traditional accounting looks at your house and says, yep, that's an asset. It has value on a spreadsheet. But Kiyosaki says, hold on, you're paying a mortgage, right? Taxes, insurance, repairs, all that cash is flowing out of your pocket every month. So in his world, it's a liability. The whole game shifts from focusing on your net worth to focusing on your cash flow. Now, he taught this whole philosophy through this amazing story of his two dads. But for years, years, this one huge question hung over everything. Was Rich Dad even a real person? This mystery became a massive part of the whole Kiyosaki legend. And Kiyosaki himself? Oh, he loved it. He totally fanned the flames. When a journalist cornered him in 2002 and asked him to name his mentor, he gave this legendary response. He basically said, why don't you just treat him like Harry Potter? Come on. As you can imagine, his critics pounced, saying, see, we told you so. The whole thing's a fantasy. But the real story is, of course, a little more complex. The secret was kept for nearly 20 years. Then, in 2009, a clue appears. A Hawaiian hotel owner named Richard Kiyami passes away, and his obituary flat out says he was Kiyosaki's mentor. But get this, it still took another 7 years for Kiyami's son, Alan, to finally go on a radio show and confirm it, saying, yep, my dad was the real Rich Dad. And when you look into Richard Kimi's life, it's like, wow, it all just clicks. His story is the Rich Dad playbook. This was a guy who didn't even finish high school, took over a failing business, and completely turned it around, pivoting into construction and real estate. He saw an opportunity nobody else did, building budget hotels for locals, and he built a true empire from scratch. So, with the Rich Dad mystery finally solved, let's pivot to the massive business empire built on his teachings. And believe me, it's an empire that has been just as controversial as it's been successful. First, just look at the scale of this thing. It's staggering. We're talking over 40 million copies sold worldwide. To put that into perspective, that's in the same league as classics like The Catcher in the Rye. It's one of the best-selling finance books of all time. But how it got to the top of the charts was, let's just say, unconventional. You see, when the book was first self-published, it kind of fizzled. Its big break came when it got picked up by multi-level marketing organizations. They saw it as the perfect motivational tool. It preached passive income and building your own thing, so they started buying it in bulk, thousands and thousands of copies to give to their new recruits. But the books were just the start. The real moneymaker? The seminar business. And it runs on a classic sales funnel. It starts with a free event to get you in the door. There, they pitch you a 3-day workshop that costs a few $100. But at that workshop, they hit you with the real upsell. Elite mentorship packages that could run you tens of thousands of dollars. And as you can probably guess, this model led to some serious legal trouble. A class action lawsuit back in 2011 dropped this bombshell accusation, calling the whole thing an aggressive sales scam designed to push people into crippling debt for what they called useless courses. The legal headaches didn't stop there. A company called The Learning Annex, the one that promoted his early gigs and even got him on Oprah, sued him for unpaid royalties, and they won. The final judgment was a massive $23.7 million. So what do you do when you're hit with a bill that big? Well, Kiyosaki's company made a move straight out of the Rich Dad playbook. One of his main companies, Rich Global LLC, just filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. This move legally shielded his personal fortune, which was estimated to be around $100 million at the time. And here's the key. In Kiyosaki's mind, this wasn't a failure. It was proof that his system worked. He has always preached that you should use corporations as a shield. As he says right here, the wealthy don't actually own anything, they just control everything. It's about setting up legal firewalls to protect your assets. This whole idea of using leverage and corporate shields brings us to one of the biggest debates in all of personal finance. It's a fundamental conflict between Kiyosaki and another absolute giant in the space. I mean, you literally couldn't find two more opposite views on debt. On one side, you have Dave Ramsey, who preaches that all debt is evil. Cut up the credit cards, become 100% debt-free. But Kiyosaki is on the other side of the planet, saying there's bad debt, sure, but there's also good debt, using other people's money to buy assets that make you even more. So who's right? Well, maybe the answer is they both are. It just depends on who they're talking to. Ramsey's advice is perfect for someone drowning in credit card debt who just needs a plan to get their head above water. Kiyosaki's strategies, they're really for people who are already past that point and now want to use leverage to build wealth and build it fast. So you take all of this, the philosophy, the business, the lawsuits, and you're left with this really complicated, paradoxical legacy. It all makes you wonder, what does the guy who preaches all this actually look like financially today? Well, get ready for this one. In 2024, Kiyosaki casually announced that he is personally over $1.2 billion in debt. Billion with a B. For most of us, that would be the end of the world. For Kiyosaki, it's a sign that he's winning. His logic is kind of mind-blowing. He says, I use debt as money. He sees this huge number not as his risk, but as the bank's risk. He's operating on such a massive scale that if he goes down, the bank goes down with him. It is the ultimate, most extreme example of his good debt strategy. So, how are his big investment ideas playing out? He's always been a huge advocate for hard assets instead of paper stocks. And so far in 2025, his big bets on things like gold and especially silver have delivered some phenomenal returns, which has helped balance out a bit of a dip in Bitcoin. And looking ahead, his message is as consistent as ever. He's out there right now predicting a huge real estate crash is coming, pointing to new regulations on short-term rentals as the trigger. But in classic Kiyosaki fashion, he doesn't see a crisis. He sees an opportunity. He says a crash is the best time to get rich. Which brings us right back to our original question. Is Robert Kiyosaki a financial genius who gave millions a blueprint to escape the rat race? Or is he a master marketer who built an empire on controversy and high-pressure sales? The evidence is complicated, and the answer, well, that might just depend on whether you're looking at his balance sheet or his cash flow.